My name is Harry. Welcome to my channel, Future Shock Digital. Right now I am in Switzerland. Long story, don't ask. But today I'm going to talk to you about my favorite non-linear video editor, the one that I recommend for people who are starting out, for people who come to me and say, oh, Harry, what's the best program to learn video editing? I recommend HitFilm Express. And I'll tell you why in this video. So let's roll. So, benefits of HitFilm Express. Well, firstly, it's free. It's free. It's a free non-linear video editing program. Secondly, it's very robust. Has a lot of the features that you would expect in a paid program, say like Adobe Premiere. It has a lot of those features, except it's free. And it's very intuitive, very easy to learn. Now, Vinci Resolve is another program that is also free, which does a whole lot more. It does color grading at a very high level, but the problem with Vinci Resolve is it's not intuitive. It is not easy to learn. There is a learning curve, and I don't recommend it for beginners, which is why the topic of this video is HitFilm Express. So what we're going to do in this video, you're going to see me editing the video that you're currently watching right now. So we're going to take a step back into the studio. You're going to see me in HitFilm Express editing what I'm saying right now, removing all my ums and ahs and all that. So it's going to be kind of like Inception, video editing Inception. So I've loaded up HitFilm Express and let's start. So in terms of project structure, it's very much the same way as Adobe Premiere. You can have your project file and you can have a folder with all your files in it. So let's make a new project. So file, new. I actually filmed this in 25p, so not 30. 1920 by 1080, 25 square pixels. Yep, that's all fine. It doesn't automatically save it, so we will save that in the next step. So I'm recording this with OBS, so it will slow down the computer a little bit. So one of the benefits which I didn't mention earlier is that HitFilm Express is not as resource intensive as Vinci Resolve, which is free and it's a great program, but unless you have a super desktop, it's not going to work. It won't work on your laptop. Okay, so I made a new project, but I haven't saved it anywhere, so that's quite important. So let's save that. I'm going to put it in the same folder here. I already made a folder structure with all my footage. So let's name this HitFilm 1, HitFilm project. Let's call it HitFilm 1. Okay. So now my project is living there, and I need to go back. So let's do a tour of the program. We got our media bin, we got our trimmer here, and we got our viewer. So it's like Premiere, and then you have two windows. This is your source monitor, and this is your project, your timeline, the footage on from your timeline. This is your timeline here. These are your tools, effects, history, and text there, self-explanatory. So let's import some footage. So I can go import media. I've already got it loaded up, already got it there, or I could just drag and drop it in here. So let's do that. Okay, so I got my footage in the project bin here, the media bin, although they might call it a different name than a media bin. I know that this particular clip, and it's, as you can see there, you have all the specs on it. It's 4K, 25 frames a second. I know that this particular one, it's backlit and it's overexposed, so I'm not actually going to use this. I did refilm this part, so what I can do, I can just remove it. Done. Now we only have the main clip. Now from here, there's actually two things that we could do. We could do timeline editing or 3-point editing. So timeline editing is where I would just drag this onto the timeline and then use the razor tool and slice and dice. And 3-point editing is where I would make an in point and an out point and just drag it in there. So those are the two options. I'm going to do 3-point editing because it's just going to be a little bit easier right now. So it's asking me, do you want to change the settings of your sequence here? And I don't. So what that is referring to is that this footage is in 4K, but I've already made my sequence in HD, 1920 by 1080 pixels, rather than 4K. That way I have the ability to zoom in where I want to, and I don't need it to match the sequence. So I'm just going to say no. But now it's zoomed in at its maximum, So what we need to do is right click and say fit to frame, transform fit to frame. Okay, so this is a 4K file, so it's a little bit demanding, so I'm just going to lower the playback resolution. We don't need it to be very high because I can't even see it because this is a small window. So now it's just at a quarter, so it's going to be a lot easier. So with 3-point editing, like the name suggests, you make 3 points. I've made my in point already with I on the keyboard, and then O is my out point, and then I'm going to press B on the keyboard, and that's going to put this particular clip right at the beginning of my sequence. And I don't want that, as I said before. And there we go. So we got the first part here, and I'm just going to right click on it. I'm just going to say that this must fit, and later on we can zoom in. Okay, at that point as well, I need my intro video, which is not the best of intros in the world. Let's just throw that in there. Okay, so I need the intro between these two clips. If I hold down shift when I drag and drop it in, it will move everything, so that way I don't overwrite anything. So this one as well needs to be needs to fit in the frame. I could do all of them at once, but anyway. So what I want to do now is add some text. So adding text is very easy. Just go to my text tool there, and I can type directly onto the on the sequence monitor here, and let's put my name. Now I got my text, what I want it to be right there. So let's start typing Harry Teacher Shark, and let's use a more interesting font than that. It doesn't preview the font before. I'm not really concerned with choosing a an interesting font. We'll just leave it at that. So what would be cool there is we do a slow zoom, because it is a 4K file. We can zoom in, make it a little bit more interesting. So if we double click the file and then we go to controls here, then we can go into transform, and we can adjust things as we feel. So at the beginning I want it to be as wide like that, and let's make a keyframe there. But at the end, I'm just going to hold down shifts. But at the end, I want it to be zoomed in.
Harry, welcome to my channel, Feature Shock Digital. Right now I am in Switzerland. Long story, don't ask. But
this will just make things a little bit more interesting. So this clip doesn't start exactly where I want it. So but I can't move it using the arrow tool this way, because it just won't let me. So I'm going to use the ripple edit tool, and that way I can adjust things accordingly. So I want to increase it, so yeah, and there it is, increased. If there are things here that I don't want, I can use the razor tool and then just cut, and then I can move things around if I wanted to. So what I still need to do is bring in this screen capture into this project here, but before I do that, I will show you how to export this. So this is the project file is a series of clips. It's information regarding a series of clips and where they are in the timeline, but it's not actually something that you could give to someone, that you could put on YouTube, that you can download and etc. So we're gonna have to actually export this. So this is like a recipe for a cake, and you need to actually bake the cake. So all I'm going to do is go to export, and we need to be clear of what we want to export. So I've made an out point there for what I want to export. I go to export, in and out area. I have my options here, and YouTube 1080 HD is fine by me. And all I'm going to do now is just press start, and then I choose where I want it to export and start exporting. And that was pretty much it. I've shown you 3-point editing, timeline editing, the text window, effects, controls, all of that. So now let's jump into the outro. HitFilm Express is a very robust program. It can do a lot more than this. In fact, it is actually a special effects tool. It can do a whole lot more very complex special effects, which I haven't shown you here. So let's save this, just jump into the outro, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. So that's it all from me. I hope that you found this useful. If you found this interesting, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscribe, leave, just leave, just go.